Let's see. I have your names. It's all sitting there. It looked pretty good for a business. All right. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the Tuesday, April 28th meeting of the City of Budget and Financial Review Board. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Looking on the agenda is the emergency evacuation and health notification. We are in the council chambers. In case of emergency, there are two main exits out of the chambers. The first is to the left side of the stage, up the stairs through the doorway, and down the stairway up the back side of the town hall. The second is out of the balcony stairs to the exit doorway to the stairway up in front of the town hall. The men's facilities are through the back of the chambers, past the stairway around the corner on the right. The ladies' facilities are through the back of the chambers, up the stairs, all of that. Please do not use the elevator at times of emergency.
No, Mr. Chairman, Kate, you have family issues, yeah, there was really. So if you have any questions, take them out. Get them off, get them off.
Thank you, Mr. Item C on the agenda, vote to approve the meeting minutes for the April 14th, 2026 meeting. Does anyone have any feedback on those meeting minutes before we vote for it?
And sure, there's an F by itself in review of meeting minutes. After it says the minutes were from April 7th to August days. See, there's an F right above Queen's name.
Is that my library?
Yeah, it's maybe some.
All right, after an amendment or adjustment to that, anything else?
Yeah, Donna, the paragraph that says canceling the state is concerned with Live Road Station. It wasn't the Live Road Station, was it? Because that's the one that's for it. I never heard of the Live Road Station, except for the same as so that was
Any other feedback or amendments to the April 14th minutes? All right, we have going to the amendments, and I have a motion to approve as edited. Second, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, and then so we have two abstains.
yeah, I didn't think so.
Thank you. Moving on to item D, the overview of and discussion on the FY 27 police department budget. I will budget welcome our esteemed colleagues, the police department this evening, Chief Golan and Deputy Chief Smith. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm going to turn it over to you. This is your time to kind of help us be informed members of the community. Talk through the presentation for us. Talk through the presentation, really help us understand the service that Smithfield Police Department provides to Smithfield and to the members of the community. And anything in particular with your budget requests that you want to call out, please talk to it so we can understand this one.
Great, thank you. So Jared, and this is Sarah, and is she's our financial director and also our records for obviously Mike Smith is the deputy chief. So I did prepare a little bit of a PowerPoint. Basically, you did get an email, so big desk with the mission of the police department. Well, we do have a mission statement. But prior to that, and just look at the top, I just kind of talk about the Smithfield Police Department's responsibility is the safety and well-being of the residents of the town. We are 24-hour service. We've been nationally accredited, which is clear accreditation since 2000. And we're authorized currently right now, 48 sworn officers, 12 full-time civilian employees, 5 part-time employees. So the mission of the Smithfield Police Department is to establish and maintain a proactive partnership with residents, business owners to work together to help them problem space in our community. Success of this mission depends upon the continuous effort to increase awareness and develop higher levels of trust and understanding among police officers in the community. In furthering this partnership, we pledge our dedication and diligence in protecting life, liberty, and property, preserving peace, and enforcing laws and ordinances. We are committed to improving all aspects of public safety, reducing the fear and reasonable crime, extending and improving our community programs, and maintaining the highest This is clear respect for individual rights and human dignity. We are committed to honoring the sacred public trust. I am chairman of the police department and adheres to the highest professional law enforcement standards. We shall continuously strive towards attaining excellence, removing barriers in communications, and providing our employees effective leadership, supervision, training, and quality work environment. The very neat thing about this right now is we are going for promotional process. They're guaranteed there are a bunch of officers that have memorized this. And they're going to be saying about their interviews. It's one of the things that we had probably established in how long, 1898. It's probably 1999.
They'll all remember.
They'll always remember it.
So I
So
think you're right, my hosting calls.
but I'm reading it, I can step over some looks, I guess you could say. So I went through a lot of interview processes. So the roles of the organization, the department tradition is carried out by the control division, technical division, and administrative units. Patrol team protects land and property, ensures roadway safety, investigates incidents, assist agencies manage public events, and visit the community. It also handles animal control and dispatch. The detective team investigates major crimes like homicide, arson, burglary, assault, theft, and fraud, but not limited to those, and also provides clerical support. The administrative team manages operation, planning, scheduling, budgeting, and maintenance. They also support community outreach programs. Reason why I mentioned this is because the next page, although it's a little blurry, anybody that wants to send it electronically, by all means, email them and send it to you. This is our structure, organizational structure. I do go into a little more details on the next page, where the leadership of the police department is the chief of police, deputy chief, administrative division commander, uniform commander, and detective commander. Those three, besides Mike and I, are our captains. In the next page, I break down each basically role in leadership. Obviously, we have one chief, one deputy chief, three captains of those division leaders. We have an executive lieutenant, a detective lieutenant, three patrol lieutenants, one operations sergeant, one traffic sergeant, one detective sergeant, 4 patrol sergeants, 2 detectives, 2 special investigators, 1 school resource officer, 1 DARE/school resource officer, 1 commercial enforcement officer, 22 officers that are assigned to patrol. And currently, as of January 1st, we have 2 more officers that are currently in the academy, expected to graduate in May. I do have job descriptions on all these. I don't have them with me, but I can. If they're kind of lengthy, I can email them to you, and so anybody that will make the job descriptions. These are our civilian personnel. So as I said, there were 12 full-time. Executive secretary, fiscal coordinator, records clerk, which is Sarah. Criminal case coordinator, animal control officer, the assistant animal control officer, who was also full-time, even with the assistant. Detective clerk, 2 of them, 3 dispatchers, 1 facility maintenance groundskeeper. The part-time, 3 dispatchers, 1 mechanic, and 1 criminals. Make 5 behind employees. Broke down the calls of service the past 3 years. So it says 23, the bottom calls for service. Just want to mention, I did say at the bottom, the arrest total, crash total, motor vehicle stuff are all included in that 19,491. So in 2023, we had 387 arrests, 954 crashes, which when I say crashes, they all resulted in some type of report. And motor vehicle stops were 4,422. 2024, there were 438 arrests, 874 crashes, 461 motor vehicle stops, and gold service 19,886. Our previous year, 2025, we had 383 arrests, 853 crashes, 5,830 motor vehicle stops, and 21,380 for the postal service. They vary. So this, Mr. Conti, you can appreciate this next page.
Oh, I do. I'm trying to understand the fire, so I said at least, no, they're not never.
We talked about that. It's no, because I sat there and I said to him, I said, my wife and Ben will be 30 and she still doesn't understand it. So if she doesn't understand it, I don't expect somebody coming in and saying, you know, I get this.
Right.
But what this is what this right here is us, the actual obligation for having patrol officers on the road. So when we look at this, we have 3 squads, squad 1, squad 2, squad 3. We obviously work 24 hours a day, our shifts are 8 to 4, 4 to midnight, and midnight to 8. We have to have a minimum by contract, 4 officers on the road and 1 supervisor. So let's just say squad 1 and 2 are working today. So the day shift, we would have 2 patrol officers, a lieutenant, and 2 more patrol officers, get us to 4 patrol officers on the road and 1 supervisor. Second shift would have a sergeant in each squad and 4 patrol officers total. Third shift would have a lieutenant in the sergeant and then 4 patrol officers. As you can see, some shifts don't have supervisors, so we'll be running with 1 shift, unsupervised on that shift. And that's what we're contractually obligated to do. Second shift has supervisors across the board, and the reason for that is the postal service on second shift with limited officer power to the administration and other divisions out there. Supervisors will spread thin, and usually can be at one place, 2 different places at the same time. Anything that you were able to put in an extra officer in the squad, that's how we can eliminate overtime. So let's say squad 1 of those officers is out. If I have a 3rd officer in that squad, which I do, I don't have to fill it. So we always try to stack the squads, so when somebody is out, whether they're sick, either on duty or vacation, we basically were able to do that when we can do that. And every time it's different because you never know what's going to happen to people in injuries and so on. But those are our contractual obligations right there. And if you look at the next page, this is hard to tell. It was colored in my PowerPoint point. But B1 is basically Greenville west side of 44. Kind of, that makes any sense. B2 is a very busy area, just think of like the east side of 44 up into Sanderson Road and Cedar Swamp, and all of Crossings, all of Bryant University and everything up in that end. And then B3 is our Georgiaville area and in that kind of area of town. And so we'll have one of those 4 officers will be assigned into a beat, and they will stay in that for the month. And then they'll rotate through, so they're constantly going to different beats. The 4th officer is the rover. So if you have an incident in B1 at the Mets or whatever it may be, the rover could go towards and assist that officer. If it's shoplifting at the crossing, every single officer could be responding to the crossings for shoplifting, depending on what's going on. Or if there's an assault somewhere happening, like today there was one at the school, everybody went, you know, so it's kind of like, so even though they're assigned to their beats, we will go back each other up, and the supervisor, it's in all intents and purposes, doesn't go to every promote, goes to every, I think serious fault, but that's like they should get access. They should be access, they will be, they'll go. So sometimes it's spread thin, sometimes not, but those are our obligations. And we do have those extra officers on in the squads. Not only is it help if overtime comes in, but it's an extra officer on the road doing things that they could be doing. And often we do have that extra officer on the road. We'll do special assignments if we can, but they're still basically a role to the cover and assist other officers.
What is that? What will be over
So this is our new CAD system that we were involved in the pilot program. So we're in the pilot program for the state of Rhode Island. So right now, we're getting the system free for this first year. With that said, we are helping them establish the system. So we're helping them do stuff. So in our new system, we're able to track things. So we know GPS for a certain amount of time. So if there's an accident or a car stop or a domestic or whatever, it pinpoints where on the map that happened. And we can bring up the map and we can actually see, we can click on it and it'll tell us very vague what happened, and then we can go into it a little bit more. So we have better tracking as of June of this past year than we've ever had before. It's a pilot program. There are some pickups. It's almost there. 13 agencies in the state of Rhode Island involved in it by, I think, another 9 sometime in February. We're eventually going to get all together. And the very cool thing about this is the sharing that goes on. So it used to be a phone call to another agency to get access. This is going to allow us to find out things, and as we know in the state of Rhode Island, anybody just right next door. Find out stuff that is happening, you know, in other jurisdictions. You can also very much private concept. Like if we have an incident that we don't want anybody to see outside of our agency, or we're not any staff for that matter. You look like nobody gets it, you know, so it's a cool system. We're in the pilot program of it, it was good, we got in early because now we knew all the problems, and we have a diagnosed service that's really helping out the system. But moving forward, this is gonna be a total benefit to us.
So that car was at the Minnesota Navy? or-
So that car, I would only assume was a car and some kind of incident.
Yeah.
He just did a screenshot of them,
Okay.
so that's what I had that technical.
So the aid of response, because that's off the.
No, that's a platform. Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, so for that, no, he did the case, how many minutes are also been on the wall. So,
He's got that on computer. But it's a good system, but that's a screenshot from them. And I just kind of want to get the beats down. Alright, so. Officer spending talking about goals, this is not from you, this is a question he had in general, that was it, and there really is no rhyme or reason, I tried to come up with the exact ones. And when I say officer spend approximately 20 to 40 minutes for a postal service, it's very highly, and I try to go back to the next little paragraph there. You know, routine call, traffic accident, noise complaints, could be like 10 to 15 minutes, but that's not including time that they may need to report. That's where the extra 10, 15, 20 minutes comes into play, in time travel. And then obviously serious cases, domestic violence, mental health cases, felony investigations. I say 45 minutes to several hours, it could be weeks. It could be these investigations, some of the investigations just go on forever. In time to call, responding to the scene, assessing the situation, gathering information and evidence, making an arrest if necessary, writing reports and completing paperwork. Factors influencing call duration, type of incident, the need for backup or specialized units, cooperation involved parties in the geographic distance from travel. So beyond that traditional policing, I put this there and you can see there's 3 types after the first one. We do community outreach programs, we do education programs, we are constantly being asked recently to do any type of active shooter program that churches in any communities, and we're willing to do it. And we have the officers, we have the 3 officers that training that can do it. The next 3 though, something that has been there for a while, but it just seems like it's more than ever before. And it's well-being practices, vulnerable residents, is our job. Mental health crisis intervention, providing resources and referrals, social services. These have become very time consuming for our officers, and I'm not complaining, I'm saying this is what's happening. And somebody called us that there's a person laying on the sidewalk on Pleasant Ave. I called them for 3 hours even. But just the other day, somebody was walking in the middle of medium over 295 on Route 7, where they're doing the construction. Just walking in the middle because they were having a day, you know, and had a good day. We don't have a program. Did you go there? Okay. You had to go those. Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't get. Yeah. But in your first goal to us, and as it should be. The problem is we don't have the next highest grade if it's an evaluation. If the person's going to go, if they're not going to be going, or they're going to be, where do we do with it? Where do we bring them? We can't dump them into another town. That's happened to us. That somebody ended up in our town and they shouldn't have been here and found out they were gone. So we're not doing that. If we do have connections on who we can call, who we can reach out to, but they don't work 24 hours a day sometimes. So sometimes some of these people end up in our lobby for a short period of time and somebody can come get that. We can't do that. We have to have an officer stay there with them until somebody comes and gets, and they'll be walking around all that we have. So I put that kind of thing. We're not complaining. It's just something that has been going on. I want to blame COVID. I'm going to say that, but I don't, not true. It's just, there's a problem, you know, and we have the first responders that deal with the moment of fire. So obviously, it's gotten medical emergencies, traffic safety, and public events, of course, collaboration with local organizations, and what's been found property is just chapters, what do you think? You bring stuff to us. So, and that takes time to do a report. So I had brought this up last year and we'll talk about it. So this is the FBI we call crime reporting. Every month we report all our data for this system. So it basically nationally everybody reports it. So they basically, although it's not strict and they say that national standard, come up with they believe staff and TV for law enforcement agencies, one officer. Their common staffing benchmarks is 2.4 sworn officers per 1,000 residents. As of January 2026, as we know, We're authorized to have 48 officers, so we have 2 female cadets in the academy right now. 2020 census report indicates that the town has a population of 22,118. And this doesn't include Bryan University or Destin, not down, they're 9 months out of the year, and then Bryan isn't shut down, and there's still stuff going on up there. If we utilize this recommendation of 2.4 officers, just over 22,118 residents, it would suggest that we need 53 police officers. So fiscal budget. I just kind of an overview, we sat down and talked about this, it wasn't just Mike and I and Sarah, but the members of the command staff, and we meet actually in December to try to go over things that we need and what we should be doing. And our administration has carefully reviewed the budget, considered our town's public safety needs and responsibilities of the police department. Each line item reflects the need for maintaining a level of services that the community expects on the service. And also maintaining our front staff and mental health is critical. Meeting the public safety needs of our community, our staff is essential for timely responses, active police and community engagements. As the town continues to grow and public safety demands evolve, there may be a future need to increase the number of sworn critical officers to ensure we can uphold the standards, service and safety. We continuously assess our staff needs in line with the community's expectations and emerging challenges. That's basically our presentation. The references there, you see in the kind of link. That would just get to the staffing and to the recommendation is on the uniform crime reporting system. And obviously, you know, the data that we have is not
Excellent. Thank you so much for walking us through that. So the way we plan on operating is we've gone through the presentations. I saw everyone taking notes and comments. So basically, I want to reset back to the front of the deck and open it up to the members of the board to ask any questions on any specific pages or other topical items related to that page in that document.
Absolutely.
So moving around to the departmental overview, does anyone have any questions?
Let's tell them. So.
16 pages of proof?
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
Yes, Professor.
No, it's a business too, not just a meeting, it's business.
All right, so looking over to the department overview page, some good information on that, the number of officers, the civilian population. Does anyone have any questions for the general overview of the department? All right, I'm going to take the next couple kind of at once here, the roles of the organizational components, the leadership structure. The overall, this is a breakup of the personnel.
I have a question on this, our team recruits the academy time,
Yes.
where they're not serving the force.
No, so they started the first full week of January is when they started, they're expected to graduate for if I'm wrong, it's so once they graduate, they come out and they have an 8-week training program, then after they successfully training program, or 12-week depending, they're still being told.
Someone retiring this year?
Yeah, so we have Boston County is mandatory retiring on August. Something. It's mandatory retirement date, and through their contract, and just actually recently we had an officer lateral to another agency, East Providence, and we had an officer retiring right up.
So those two fill those positions.
We hired a lateral from Gloucester, so that will fill one of those two positions, and then the people coming out of the county will actually fall into positions. And we have scheduled right now, read for 10 officer.
Make up for the other time.
To make up on the ones retirement and all, the ones that have retired, and then total retirement. Yes, it's 48.
So every time one retires, those people forward, someone else take that position.
Yeah, so we try to do a process every year. So even if we do not have the position, we do a process to get eligibility. So because it's such a time consuming thing for the 22-week academy and the 8 weeks, we don't get officers right away. And even before that 22-week academy and the 8-week training, the background check is kind of intensive and they have to go through a psychological exam and you have to go through physical assessments. So it's very time consuming, so it's beneficial for us to build process, even if we don't have a position to have somebody ready. But we don't let it go longer than a year, because, you know. Things can change in a year, and it's somebody's background, and we want to send it to them, say, well, I think we guys.
Just for reference, the two that are to be on the third, two of your on are a something. They are line or individuals that are doing stuff that we on the listening.
Those are some of the, last
Yeah, so we were able to approve them, and we had started, so we sent them again, but. So only two academics a year, January and August. So there's another options.
So, just curious. You have mandatory in there.
Yeah.
Wasn't an office that they had, so just thinking.
So when they max, when officer max out, just to give you a little and you have 18 months after the max out when you have their graduates.
Because we had to, you know, so there's a need.
It would, age of coming to, but I can be quite honest with you, it was negotiated because the contract, I wasn't involved with that, I was captain at the time, building the building. But it was, you know, ended up happening, like Mike and I are in that, because we're out of the union, everybody below us.
So don't and what's the criteria?
So the criteria basically is when you max out at 75%, is the max out the state MERS system, network, the pension system.
Not age.
No, so what it comes down to is, so as of July 1st, 2012,
Yeah.
the state law changed for pension rule, the accumulation percentages. So up until that date, you accumulated 2.5% per year that you work and contributed to the system. After that, they dropped to 2%. So anybody who's hired, I was hired in 1997. So I got accumulated 2.5% through June 30th, 2012. So everyone's dates will be different. Now, anyone hired July 1st of 2012 forward, they were accumulated at a record of 2%. So once you get to 75%, then you're maxed out, then you at 18 months. So everyone's age is not based on year 62, year 65. Everyone's age is different when you max out, depending on your hire date. There's also out of
solid career.
that's
Salary, what you related? No. It's
yeah. So you get 75% from losing.
relations paid. It's more.
It's years of service.
Yeah.
The multiplier will be on when you reverse around.
Correct.
I got three questions. First one's simple. I think it's simple. So you have the annual lawsuits. Do you issue citations to them? They.
So they put their own investigation, because we have a co-op, different co-op situation, Bob will basically. The control officers will, they'll do the investigation, they'll do the report, they'll issue the citations and violations and.
Where does that citations come?
So sometimes they enter in this next, what that they have for the animal, for all state of Rhode Island, sometimes when you.
It's not part of our news.
No. It is, but it's not, it's done at station.
No, they can probably, is that this for.
For a barking dog and non-conditioned dog, yeah. All right, so it's a prevention dog hearings is different with the barking or enhancement, like that.
That wouldn't be the one that's violation.
Right, no, this one is for, it's not felony, but it's more egregious. Yeah, because we got those fixes. That's one thing like that, notes to do, so we can add this much as even controls. The other question I have is, we have, well, a quick one is, are the two recruits bad, plus one?
Yeah.
No, are they right now, plus one?
Oh, they they get sworn in the day they graduate, I actually swear them in that day.
So you, so it's a 40, the two are not.
Those are, they're 47 for me.
Right, but they're
Yeah, so the next thing, we're allowed to have 40, after January for 41, right now we have 46, 48, I swear in that day.
So this is going to be on Thursday, I have seen. What is school resource officers? What is the boundaries of their response? So he's still reporting to you guys,
But yeah, they have, so they report to the department, they have an immediate supervisor, they actually have, they're not given. Well, I'm that person, immediate supervisor, so the sergeant long. Is
Right, it's in there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, oh, absolutely, so we have a contract with the school and what they can and cannot do. in the school, so their discipline isn't discipline for the school and the services, their discipline might be if it's criminal activity or something on that end. And they are basically told when that happens, they'll start a little investigation, but an officer will come and finish the investigation, because we want that environment to be. There's a resource officer who need that. So we have one of ours with Gracie, the gentleman right there with Law, he's at the high school, both like. Darren, our their school resource officer, they're just both trained to be school resource officers, they're both trained to be their officers. He talks to every other school, so he's at a school a day for the most part. And he talks to those schools and, you know, he's mostly in the classroom when he's there, you know, that he does his classes, his tier classes and differently. And then, you know, he basically runs the training program for Ryan, he's often at the high school, they're busy. They're busy, especially this past year, that we imagine, we couldn't have enough school resource officers because everybody wanted somebody at the school that would have happened before I was thinking.
So, okay, so they're badge officers, if they have a felony, they have to do their job, but what I'm hearing from you is a balance between trying. Trying to be a friend, obviously, that's what I'm saying,
Resource, because the problem, so what we don't want that officer doing, handling everyday discipline at the school. If she should not be doing that. So I think that's not I MOU that they do that, but if there's criminal activity. They will handle it, they'll handle it just as they would any other criminal activity, contact their supervisor. And then often we would set an officer over who says, again, because we don't want this person not to be isolated. He could be getting information, you know, so if lack of a better term, he's not the one putting this person in the back of the police car and bringing to the station. Somebody else will do that.
So what you're saying, I'm gonna read it for you, so. I guess like I said, if a kid swears at a teacher, then.
They might talk to him.
Official.
No, they just, how they is.
So when once it crosses the line, for the lack, they don't want the other ones to versus.
Yes, the difference between a school matter and a sharing a police matter.
Is this came up as no, there it's. It's a criminal activity, difficult, that person, so that was resource, also can maintain the trust of the students.
If that, and that's what we try to do, and sometimes it does happen, you have to engage, so you do what you have to do. If it gets to the level where somebody's being put into a car or whatever, we simply try to, but we can all, that's the purpose of somebody else to do it. Because he is a resource, and, you know, he should be doing security at the school too, and that's what he's there for. You know,
So he's also a deterrent by a police not being blocked in front of Smithfield High School. Some, you know, I consider kind of do something foolish. They pull up as a police officer and that's a deterrent factor, which is real important. And kids know it's the police officer in school, which is also a deterrent factor. Kids safe.
Anyone else?
Yeah, anyone else, yeah, they don't call it.
When you're at school, is he desk based or typically roaming, like literally? I don't want to say patrolling the halls, but that's like a mobile resource.
he has an office, and he can have access to our station data and anything else he needs from the station. He's got Gracie, so Gracie, if you've ever had it, she likes to wander, so that makes it fine whether he wants to or not. But no, his job is to be part of things, like I know he does pop into the health programs, and he talks on those things, and he pops in, because he's there tricky also, and he pops into different things, but he's around guidance a lot. There are kids that, you know, I'll tell a story, it was last year. It was last year, there was a girl that left school, she took off, and habitual leaver, this time she doesn't come back, I can find her. And so Brian, the school resource officer, called her because he had her number, and he said, I have Gracie, right? She told. That's what she gave her. You know, so even though it raises, it took her a little while to get that. It's great.
While we're talking about SROs in there, so this is one of the budget related questions I have. If we go back a couple of years, in FY 24 year, the DARE program was budgeted spent $5,146. And it escalated And then it escalated, so to the point where last year and this year, the request was $10,000 in there. How do we go from a couple of years ago, 5,000 to 10,000 program now?
So that is more, we don't have many giving to kids stuff. So we wanted to create, it's expensive to the beginning to create these things. I want to create a racing book, coloring book. I want to, you know, if I know it's back, so the back is very okay. And a back of upfront costs for these things are very expensive because we don't have the hours to be doing it, I don't know, you know, what they're gonna do based on that. We're looking to do these books, so in the future, we can have these books to give to our first, second, third, fourth, fifth graders. You know, and because right now we have stickers we get out. It's great, it's love stickers, you know, so we have a sticker with you. But we want the department as a whole, especially with younger kids, to do something. And that's kind of the increase, it's more merchandise we want to purchase for the day program to give than anything else.
Can I make a suggestion? It's too late for this. All of us.
Absolutely. It will lose out.
I think it's probably not too late, right?
Well, no, it's too late because they can leave.
Oh,
That's what I'm.
But this, you know, we can already get this done, so it's gonna get done.
Oh, but we just.
Yeah, so that's.
I was going to be some of the community events like the RSP had this week.
So we pay for that, we pay for that, that is, you know, it's the rent, we pay the rent, we take care of us. You know, especially when it comes to getting the food for the kids and stuff like that, but we have to pay our fee.
Kids look forward to that every year, so it's a great
Event. Unfortunately, it's always done at the time of year, because it's the end of the year where every single sport's going on, you know, so it's kind of, you know, there's no good time, you know, really do it, but it's at the end of the year, we do it.
Alright, so, I we were talking about the support personnel and the overall staffing levels, so. Within the 48, that includes a 2 traffic control that we moved last
So
year.
that's when we get to the 48. What I want to do is put these officers into those traffic positions, because I can't pull from other areas to create over, or to create other issues. That's the ultimate goal, as we all know, and I'm not telling anybody in here that something they don't know, that's the biggest complaint we receive in the town, is our traffic congestion, there's not much we can do about that. Traffic enforcement, we can do more, and the people that get neglected, and it said this last year. Our office is around 44, so Route 7, around Smith Ave, around these main roads, it's the back office. That they get neglected because we're getting called out to these other roads, where if we have these officers that can be assigned to. Something big happens, they're assigned, but to assign, they're not going to the normal very falls, they're assigned to library. They're assigned to the school, they're assigned to catering, they're assigned to wherever it may be. I live off of my roads, people are not my road, and yeah, there's one out that's tight, and everybody knows it, and everybody wants it done, so. That's what we're kind of trying to do with those traffic officers, and you can never stop any people, because on an average day, how many people drive down from there, a lot. It may seem like 5,000 cars is a lot of stuff, but it's not. You break it down to a daily thing, it's not, I mean, it's with the amount of traffic that they have. And so that's the goal, is to increase the number of the town, because we need those officers. I'll just go back to this winter when the schools were not comfortable with what happened in Providence. Those officers were at the schools, they were sitting in the park, we did what we need to do at that particular time. And we did do that with the officers that we had on them, we didn't have time. I mean, everybody wanted an officer at their establishment for whatever reason, they can't run. You know, so swing for this, swing for this, swing for this.
Also, probably a lot into this, which is it for us. It's very difficult.
It was
I
difficult
lived
for everyone.
through it and yeah.
Versus the university.
Appreciate the things.
Yeah, no, it's difficult for everyone. And yes, right, it's a university. Who thinks they're about it? Right? They think they are. So, we're another issue, you know,
Right, and also, and I love to move around.
it really.
I know you can get it off, that's the thing, okay.
It just passed. I'll just get it on.
Oh,
It's just passed on students.
this is only the first one.
Yeah, well, they have to do this data.
That's the budget, but that's who class. But we have public schools that are on the morals, I'm not saying because of cheaper than we would like it, you know. we have to talk about kind of tremendous resources versus towns. Going through these budgets, trying to get the best public service you can, so people will see. That's how I was in, each of us was feeling.
I can tell you, Mike and I were out during that time. We were at the school, we were sitting there, we were doing, you just felt we had to.
When you guys go, wherever those pads goes. That's how it is. You said you cruiser out.
Yeah, because so we never put our, we never put a cruiser out front because this sentence suggested at times, if an officer's not there. You don't want to do something like that, and it was, you know, it was one of those. What is the benefits of that, what are the, yeah. So, but yeah, when an officer, Gary, is our roving guy, when he goes to the school, his car's there. And usually should be there, I have to push the school that day, you know, and again, could it be a deterrent? Hopefully, yes. You know, you're right, we'd like to have us, we all have kids, we all know kids, we all whatever, yeah. But we would like that, but it is what it is, and I can assure you. And I know anybody that tries on positive about, we tell our officers, if you're doing nothing, sit in front of a school. Go sit in front of a school, and they're always in front of the school, they're a backup person, they sit in front of the school. If you're eating, sit in front of the school, if you're on your phone, sit in front of the school. You know, it is what it is.
So I guess one of the questions, because we're talking about staff, one of the questions I had is there a standard or a national recommendation? The answer said 2.4 officers per 1,000 residents, so that would be about 2 to 4 officers versus 40 per annum. So you answered that ahead of time, so you're looking for that data. What will that do for Smithfield? Like if we just opened up a checkbook and said, okay, here's the extra 5 officers that you're missing right now. What does that do for the community versus for Acapulco?
Senators.
Well, no, and I understand it, because I wouldn't say some public don't need that or whatever it is, but I would say a public interest in public companies, officers at schools. And that would be kind of what they are in school year and school time. More community events or community these participation in events. You know, often our officers, like this weekend, is the color run and the touch for our officers doing that, and they're doing it. Not getting paid for it, they're doing it. It would be nice to have officers that are getting paid for it and they can go there, that's what you're gonna use, what you're gonna do, you know, but you know, it would be just any officer, so when an officer selected to be a school resource officer, I went through the program. Besides that, and reconstruction, it was one of the toughest programs I've ever gone through, it was 80 hours, I had never taught anything in my life, running through lesson plans, getting up in front of a group of cops with the worst audience, and attempting to teach. Right, it was horrible. So our officers go through this, and when they go through it, they're ready to be interacting with the kids, and it's not for everyone. So, but that, obviously, traffic. Like, if for every complaint we get, whether it's online or a phone or home, if I could put an officer on that road at that particular time, that'd be okay. Because the person in, they see the moment. If something happened in that moment, that we need an officer here. Now there are some roads in town where it's constant. Like Julian Street again is asking for speed bumps. And why? Because it's a cut road. And that's a residential road. It's nothing but a residential road. Now the sort they have the speed bumps. People cut through that left and right. It's all the time. They go home. I know I see it. You see it every because you do it all the time. And it's just it's constant. So to put an officer there more often than we can right now, absolutely.
So I guess here's your question, you mentioned speed bumps, are those effective?
Yeah, they're effective, but I think overall, if you're looking at public safety or public emergency responses, it's not good. It's not good for that. Yeah, like the bumps. You know, it's not. But you know, removal. You know, even the rescues. I wouldn't want my mommy and bump down the road. No, which back of the field because I've
Seen in Providence, fast. They go around, if they're not, go around perfect. So.
Oh, like the car now.
Yeah, so I have to be found in use. Sign, that's. Should have done.
So other counties did have within their budget requests, headcount caps, vacancies listed within their funds. That's something that you actually didn't have in your budget, or because you went off of what's pre-approved. You said I have 48 support officers. That's all I'm putting in here. If you said, what's your ask? being like thoughtful about increasing year over year, do you have an ask as to, I'd like to add an officer this year, 2 officers, 5 officers, like, is there something you'd like to try to accomplish this year?
I think the traffic division is something I wanna get, and that's, we've been given, and now we're gonna establish it. We have the job description written up, we have the idea of how it's gonna work. We have it in a manner that if it doesn't work, we're gonna alter, you know, that way, you know, stuff like that. I think supervision is important, that, you know, sometimes it might be more patrol supervision needed, but not all the time. And that's coming from the clear world, which I did for 5 years, I was the clear officer manager of the department. They strongly, and again, we're talking about fixed country, we're not talking about New England or maybe Rhode Island. They can supervise shooting on every single scene. Because maybe they've been, maybe there's been things that, you know, and they didn't have the comment that they would supervise in there. But that mindset is second year, we implemented that supervisor, yeah, we need more supervision, because unfortunately, on second shift, and this is nobody's fault, it's human nature. That's when we have the domestics, that's when we have the things that are going on, like, one domestic, you can have a whole shift there, or at least a supervisor there for the department. As we know in the state of Rhode Island and many other states, domestics, somebody is more than likely to be arrested. You know, it's because just the way the law's written, and there's an investigation that goes with it. But I think the traffic division is something I want to establish and get going. I'm not sure to say to you, every time I see you, I'll take 3 more and I'll do this. You know, because I can't right now.
I was like that.
I wouldn't be able to do that as a team, and I don't wanna. I'm looking at the advertised recommendation, 2.4 officers per 1,000. That seems to have so many different variables, like, you know, the age of the residents, the city, where it's located, the square miles, where those 1,000 residents are. I'm surprised it's not based on calls, so that's.
Yeah, no, this is the data, and actually, they look all over. If you go to the other one, the neighborhood people, whatever, it's 2.6, it goes up to 2.9. For some agencies, this I thought was more realistic for down people and not demographics. And we're building, we're moving in the direction that we're more and more. And I do agree with you based on quotes, and then probably even types of quotes, you know, and that's kind of where I am, a little bit those 3 things on, we're doing a whole different lanes of police work that doesn't involve arresting people, doesn't involve the people of the law, it involves social services.
Yeah, I'm just curious of how they get, you know, whether it's 2.4 for 1,000 residents from. So many other areas.
Yep, you're right.
But to go off that question, I mean, I bet you Providence. Well, because of the density,
So Providence at one point was 2.9 per resident.
they're a dense city, and so I think multiple knowledge of the city. And business hospital, but I think first the other side of it, it's we're more residential, we do have. Interstate over our town, and so, and I don't do metrics for living, so I agree with you, but you gotta use some, I'm gonna put plug in, because I've done a lot of work with Sergeant Foreman, Chief, we know how I feel about how much money we don't have, but if I had full control of this, and we get the money, I want to get the software. We've talked about it so many times, because I'm tired of going to church and taking it head on.
They keep that way too.
And how many people I can count on every day, the rate that I know where I turn out right. That's dangerous, I mean, I guess I found, and that's probably why we state. To take that right hand turn and screaming down that hill was incredible, and I've had people kind of bang. Well, I get out of the car, Jim, I
just get that. And then they
So
the software is Urban UK, Urban Forkhead, Urban something K. So it's a cool program, a very cool program. And saw the demonstration, I saw the demonstration about all points. And what it is that, so this is, it gets the data from all these smart vehicles. And it doesn't, it's not, but it gets the data of what a car is doing at any particular time. It's a week data. So basically, I could get data from last Tuesday or up to Tuesday, so Tuesday to Tuesday of last week, or get to the, it's always we have, but what we saw, and I don't know if you saw the same when I did, they showed Swan Road. So Swan Road shows when you're coming down Swan Road, when you get to the hill and the stops, how many cars, you know, particularly they drove down that road, what the speed that they were doing, how fast were they were going, and all this different stuff. We were able to get this data, so if somebody did call, hey, let's go back and look, let's see what we need to do there. Do we need to put a post there? Is it just that one car that did a problem? We did it for Willow. So for Willow Road, they did it for Willow for us. And we learned that there was not speeding vehicles, there was more vehicles. So we can't enforce more vehicles, but we can enforce speeding vehicles. So what we were able to determine after looking at this data, well, didn't really the speed of vehicles, if there was one car that was really going like fast, and everything else was just more vehicles than had been in the past, because they were able to show us right through the courts and then during the courts. The problem with the program is not cheap. And there's no other department in the state of Rhode Island, Laura is looking into a theme, or also who's on our traffic commission board. They don't want to give it to us just a year. They want to get us marketed for 3 years. So when we called up the hospital, what happened, the local agency that has this data, they basically told us, we wish we didn't lock in for 3 years. So you're only getting 70% of the vehicles on the road because some vehicles don't have these smart, so all these different things, and it's like, we even all as a Susan knows, negotiating, hey, we'll be your, you know, give it to us for a year, we'll pay for a year service, and we'll be the ones that tell everybody it's great. They just didn't want to hear it.
But to go into the story a little bit more, he's being a little humble about this. He's not saying to give you a call to, or he might get a call from anybody around this table. Okay, they're coming down on Williams Road at 100 miles an hour. And then he's got to go and do the investigations for speed. He can, whatever it takes, and you can fill it in. But with this software, you can look at it for a certain day and time, and he can go, it was only, or there was no house in that speed. And so it takes 5 minutes to just write back the citizen and say, right, I have the data, it's objective. And just, right, because what I people around my day learn how to see one car, and I, that's the one that just looks like.
Right, so that's human nature. As I told Mr. Susan, we're talking, we always remember the person that didn't let us go, cut us off, and was fighting, you know, the whole way down the road. We don't remember the person that let us go, didn't cut us off, and you know, is behind the road.
What's the rough cost of the software?
It was over 30. It was very nice. It was, you know, it was gonna be great. Yeah. So it was a lot of money for what we were getting. You know, and then we have a device called a jammer.
Yeah.
So we have that device, but the device with the jammer, we had tripped it out. So we did purchase a second one. So we used to have one that could just do 2 lanes, and now we have one that's 4 lanes, both ways, for the most part. But so we can put that device in on a road, leave it there for the amount of time, we'll get it, retrieve the data, and find out what do we need to do. But even with that one car, if we don't put a police car out there for a time and get them there, you know, we'll rotate the basis, residents can catch that. Because that car still did that on that day. And many times, like I say, you also sit in front of the schools, it's a deterrent. And makes people slow down for that only. When people flash at lights, and I know I've said this before, good, you slow people down. You're doing a job for us, you know, so it is what it is, but. So we're still looking into a couple of things, I think our new CAD system, and I know I want you to see it, it's gonna help us a little bit, where we can pinpoint, just like on Fort Worth, an easy example, where are all the stops happening? And why are all the stoppings happening in this location? With more officers, if it's stopping, they got Willow, using this example, right, there are all stops up here, and it's stops on this. Why, who's not those stops, you know, whatever it may be.
So I actually have questions about that software, but also, so thinking about this other software, I would say if you could put a business case together, showing some sort of recovery of that 30 grand a year, saying it's going to allow extra amount of time of officers being on the roads, but we're going to have 1,000 hours of manpower or whatever it might be. That's how you would be able to financial costs.
I just, from what I talking to the gentleman in Boston and call, they're like, it's not there.
I think it's a separate issue that they're not where they should be.
Yeah.
They're at 147 agencies, right? I think that's
Yeah.
number, so 147, not a lot.
Right.
There's a reason for that,
Yeah.
you know, and don't get me wrong, both work it. he jumps on this stuff and he does the research and he does what he needs to do and he gets excited about it and it's great. He's very excited about this program. But you know, Paul, we gotta. I don't always want to be the person on the pilot program.
Yeah.
But I told that, just a quick question, I feel like that he speaks from Saturdays.
It does, so it gets up to the, you're.
Probably the whole response.
It's your vehicle, yeah, I think that's for anything in your vehicle that's whatever that.
Like I said,
So it's like 70, whatever they said, percent of the cars, okay, it's great, it's all that I use for the time. You know, and then, you know, we're,
it's not.
it's good, it's very expensive, and I don't want to be trying to 3 years or something that might be your.
Going back to the question, I don't want to say it's fine, gets very objective. It really gets hard data. It's hard data that hard to me, or it was just once in a week. You know, because that's an outlier.
With the jammer. The jammer is something that we have a traffic division, ideally we always setting this jammer up and it's very small. That goes on a telephone pole or whatever it might be. Get the data, go out there and do and go back and see if you make a difference by sitting out there, because nobody knows the gym is there. It's not the big box that should have stayed like that, nobody knows. Yeah, so it's kind of, that's kind of what we want to use it for. Then we can go back and go as a, hey, listen. We did the jammer for a week, we sat out there for a week, we came back for a week, and you know, put the jammer out again, and slow people down, or did this or did that. Again, Burley Street is another example, and I'll say that a lot because we just got a complaint. Suggestion. It's a lot of cars going down that road. You know, and it's maybe they're speeding, maybe they're not, they are going through that stop sign, but it's congestion.
Now, you guys offer yourself that you're accommodating, do you have rough estimates on what that your process would
So
be?
that's gonna be into our CAD system, which should be pretty much similar to our current CAD system that we're not paying for now, so this year. Well, we have to go for this year, but moving forward, it's gonna be about $50,000. And we're in a 5-year contract, so now we need to continue for each and every year. And that's basically the same thing for all the departments in the state.
So then this isn't an incremental or a new software, it's actually replacing.
It's replacing our INC CAD system. Very much outdated. It did what it needed to do, but when I had to pull data from it, it was very hard to do. You had to do more of it yourself and actually get with it. This system, and it's going right now, but we're almost there. If I take one, if I really want to pull something up and get the pinpoint of what's going on in the area, I would not only get an app, but we'll click on it and go right to the report. You know, so I have the authorization to do that, and it's moving forward. You're gonna see more charts and graphs. It tells us, all right, so let's say 40, for example, it's gonna tell us, we want to be 40 for traffic. It's gonna tell us the sex, age, all of it. This is the highest one of this, but white female, age 40, stop the most. You know, it does, it's awesome. It's kind of like all this different stuff that it's doing for us, that we're, you know, we're just doing the stops and attention. And we'll be a full year in June, but there have been some issues getting there. And there's a big meeting in May with the departments here on the.
No, I don't, yeah, they already have spans, so that's not a real question, I guess, I don't expect an answer on it, more of food for thought. If it's able to be tied into the town's GIS system, because Public Works has a full map of all the street signs, all of the speed limit signs, everything out there. It'd be interesting to have that, like, know exactly what the speed limit is in any one spot and find that in the same report.
Yes, all right. I'm not straight class.
I'm not that.
The tech, you know, my career's in IT, so the tech guy in me is like, oh, cool data.
So we have Doug, I don't know if you know Doug, around the tech, he's very much in technology. And then our new gentleman, Bryce, that's working for Dave, working on the line, young guy, very much into the technology, and has taught us a couple of things already that, you know, you might not have done before, especially Mike, because Mike really knows the natural things. We have to tell him every day.
Okay. Well, I was thinking us a little bit since we were talking about computers, I did actually have a line item about computers. So the department is consistently spent around 30,000 a year in computer and equipment spend. Appropriated 40,000 last year and going up to a $60,000 investment for this. What's the details behind it?
Additional.
And,
You've been staying on top.
yeah, well, on this, as a secondary question, and it's because of the town consolidating IT spend. And, town manager, I know you provide you guys what we're calling details, where the fire unit has moved over, the police has not.
So fire, we had a Google IT budget, so 2 years ago, we started using Dave's budget, we just bought, you know. We didn't have a good built out budget, went through software, rolling, we did now fire alarm budget, but Dave, since then. And then I know the chief said a bunch of operating plans that they're finishing up, so intent will be after that is done. Want to get in squared away and most likely you will build up a budget of IT for everything.
Okay, excellent. So I'm getting probably last fiscal year that will keep the separate IT project. Looking,
They want to get this squared away for all this upgrade stuff.
but fine, I guess, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I appreciate the same, but it's a business, I mean, it's only gonna be $60,000 of him, $60,000. I have a lot of questions when we get to general session B, about. Moving on, I like what Dave's doing, we had a long talk about it a couple of weeks ago, I want him to make sure that the software for that things being purchased. You know, make sure that that's happening, not these guys are doing wrong, but there's gotta be a set, we decentralize everything. I know. You can't put on anything on my computer, it's.
Yeah, and that's what we're moving down with the IT department. Never had a official department before, I was hoping to get the schools on board and tomorrow.
I understand with $60,000 over and like some.
I have to do that out, they had a reason. Then that's what.
Look, live feed is one of it, so we have a live feed system, and that might not mean anything, because the live feed system is the process. Now, for business coworkers, school applicants, but also our presidents. And that is 8 years old, out of warranty, and they will not work on it anymore. We get to a point that we actually had to call another agency to go down and use their system to print somebody. If you don't print somebody when you're arrested, it doesn't make it the agency, so the CIR and that stuff. So luckily, we were able to negotiate with the company to fix that, even though we're under contract, but we're gonna, that's a whole system itself, that's gonna be part of our records.
NUT as a whole, is it a software installed on other computers or it's its own standalone physical computer that is used for?
So I might be wrong on this, but I think it's its own standalone. Yeah.
And so the software and data is on my computer. It's on my
It's
data.
getting a new server, right now, it's very false.
And this is, we have 2 of them, we have one upstairs, and to our station, that's for the civilian applicants, we have a lot of people come in because it is what it is. And then we have the one downstairs, it's a necessity, and you just fail. Unfortunately, I gotta say that I didn't know about it last year, that one week had run out. Where we're going to been there.
And so is it in the budget somewhere to replace that as part of the technology?
So that's.
Okay, so that's part of this.
Yeah, so that's what we're using, gonna using purchasing computers, you know, giving them the systems. 2 more workstations to replace some more computers.
That's a specialized, you know, it's all electronic, they're figure, that's,
Very cool.
yeah, it's different, not. What's the cost?
So, but is that actually explains the difference where they historically run 30?
I haven't lived with
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And
So,
then
and additional has to do, if you go for like your TSA global entry and they do all your fingerprints digitally and stuff, then.
eight years just slipped. And the problem with it, and not that he wasn't ready for what it was, when we utilized as crime investigators, you put that thing in the system and it'll give you the dates. You know, so we're printing you, you're saying your name's Mike Smith, and then we're done printing, you know, it's it's Tom O'Brien, you know, whatever it is, because it's that quick, it's that awesome, and that the technology is done. As opposed to the ink prints when we used to submit them, and months later, you found out they didn't want for something else.
So for a system like that, I guess one of the questions is, why in the operating budget and not a capital? And that might be something that we send over to Caitlin.
No. And I think because you put multiple items together, it's probably better in the operating budget. Typically, you think over $10,000 can be put in as a capital. So either way, it's the goal.
I have a track, but we're not far, yeah, that was the areas that we have, cameras, to go over to the house. And we only go 125 instead of 5 over. We don't have anything to, what's the pros and cons of it?
So I'm not a fan of that. I know in some situations they may work, school zones or whatever it may be. But basically, I look at it as a money grab, and it's kind of like who's ever driving 5 over is going to get a ticket or 10 over. And for the most part, from what I understand, they're all like the same tickets, the speed that you may be doing over. You know, so it's not, there's no discretion issues.
Well, we don't, so.
If you know, I think it works. Yeah. So there are also people that we know quite often don't have plates that belong to those cars on those cars and they're driving to anything and it's not gonna do anything. I can't control, there's no accountability when somebody doesn't pay it. There's no, that's suspending your registration, that's suspending your license, those things are not happening. So I would hate. I think our residents would understand the cameras are there and the way the was. But I would hate for those incidents where it's, you know, I still think you need that officer correcting who's driving.
So I would say, Chris, again, I'm not an expert on this subject, but I've done a lot of reading on like this happened, there's some cameras. The companies behind them, and I'm not going to say it about us, because I don't know. But kind of in the aggregate, they're predatory on the residents and people driving, they're also predatory on the towns, and they take a significant portion.
They do take it
of
on
the
them.
compensation without revenue.
You also need an officer to verify
Right.
license plates, so you need another officer that be a full-time job of looking at the video, confirming that it matching with vehicles, that it's a combination plate, a commercial plate. And for suburban vehicles, all sorts of, you know,
Not everybody should get a ticket. I mean, I had to see, not everybody should get one, and I hope that you.
School zones are very.
Some are awesome, and that's where I would think that, okay, I understand that, that's there, you know, because. But I also, in the same breath, I'd love to have my officers out of these schools, so they can be to deter those, you know, and one of the big complaints we got this year, I got into it this week, because the middle school. It wasn't her, but one of her teacher associates was walking from, you know, you go to the middle school, and you go and parking, and they were walking into the school in a parking, flying almost hit her. Basically almost hit her, and then I almost couldn't get the bus because they had it, and yeah, that's what almost happened, they actually flew through. So those became with that, but the officer, we didn't have an officer at the time, but sure, that was an officer every day. But he's like, you're gonna be kidding me, like, and you know, but I do, I understand, those are, you know, I don't want,
What he's saying is true, I've seen the research, there's a lot of monopolies.
Oh, yeah.
He's a over.
There's also the-
That's right, and you're anything over, so we can,
you can also purchase a plate cover that will, even though I can see. Yeah, they're selling that specifically, the flat cameras that are doing it in these cameras, they can't be crazy.
I have definitely concerns, I don't know what to do, again, I was at, I work in this, and not believe it's something. Was something, you know,
Sam work.
yeah, you know, there isn't, there's a doesn't go to your insurance, or it was suspension, and for the most part, usually the population. I think your speed signs. You could probably throw the sticker block, the big sign that says, hey, it's, you know, it's should go, but because most people assume this like that.
And most people they see it, the average person that do that, oh, I didn't know I was doing that, I wasn't doing that. You know, currently we have 3 of the ones not working and being fixed as we speak, and you know, but we get requests all the time for those. And not only do we get requests for speed and things, we need them also for detours and other things that are going on. We have a petition about construction strips and stuff like that. They are there, and people do believe that they are, you know.
Yeah. When you look for detours, is that an e-based service?
So
Like an officer on PTL would be an e-based service.
So when we do the detours, they're basically public safety, but with that said, the 3 of them we have, they are actually, I think we purchased one, but the state pays for our messaging. So when we do message out there, we may put the message board out there like we do every year. Congratulations to the class of 2026. The next sign is gonna be slow down, you know, whatever, because we have to always have some type of safety message on it. And that's what we're paying for that service. So when we do have something, if I'm or wherever we pay, yeah, we're going to put it out there and we're going to with detour the slow down there.
So the chairman, go back to what we were saying.
Yes.
So Claire was suggesting this, sounds like you get like a $30,000 package. More. That would go in capital, not be that as a line. The other 30,000 is probably all the other, computer or screen. And we would replace the network and all, so. If you split it out into the 30, calculating in capital, it's still going to get funded,
Right.
and that would be fine.
It wasn't a criticism, it was more clear and trying to understand like why we do things in the other process.
But I can talk to the people tomorrow, and you still gonna have the same.
So the finance are okay, right?
That's just to need that one.
It just shows it as an anomaly going from a traditional $30,000 spending to $6,000. That's what we used to have.
Quick questions, after is that distance was.
So we're going to have it until, we'll have it forever, until it's out of warranty. So it's passed. So the system that we currently have right now that we use it, is we still have the software that's able to use it, but when it breaks down.
So there's no mean, so they usually.
No, so that would be in, so the price that we got is on 28,000, and I don't know exactly what it's saying, but that's would be more.
Okay.
Please. And this is a great buff, whatever it's called, whatever it's called. Actually, we should add it, it's like a whole stop. And it's a lot easier to ask the person to leave it. No, how would you need if you move that job? Very strict. But I do have one question on one, the technical part for you, and I'm just wondering. If you could explain that a little bit, because all these other styles and bridges are pretty, equal to each other, low common. That's 141, 422.
Yeah, sorry, that needs it.
So what happened with that is that particular, there was a miscategorization of previous year. So they could look at it, put dispatch being down significantly. And the detective correct position doubled because that position, that particular person was categorized as dispatcher in error last year, and then we moved her to the dispatch position where she should.
Yeah, so we're looking at, looks like the dispatching union has about a 56,000 reduction. And the detective clerk feels it has a 70-ish thousand dollars.
And that's the difference between favorites.
Yep.
My question is, well, 999 was in use. For 166. So I'm gonna, it's gonna be one of the issues for the what we found out. Is that any, we talk, is that any vehicle, you know? So I'm gonna be asking for, because we can have these things, we talk things. How many vehicles? And I don't care, that should be. There's 3, 4.
You wanna take it, my vehicle, so no, it's, you know, when you have, we could have a lot of them.
So typically, that, the budget will either ask, depending on the fleet needs. I mean, it could be 2 vehicles, could be 3 vehicles, 4 vehicles, then depending on the vehicle that you're buying. Cost can vary significantly. Meaning, if you're getting, your patrol vehicle with over the gallons in it. And the prisoner transportation and the overhead lights. Compared to with the detective or administrative vehicle. That is significantly less, because it doesn't have, the vehicle itself is a much cheaper vehicle. So the vehicle and the equipment costs are probably For patrol vehicle, on average, you know, 30,000 miles will be. There's an equipment in the vehicle, and for an administrative / detective vehicle, you could be looking at like, let's say, $5,000 and.
This variation,
Yes,
and this is gonna come up as a gotcha, and I don't want to know that there. So we don't know which you're going to do. To replace, once you go
so that,
Those hours are not enough, then $1 million, that's how you get it. And you don't have to answer your house, you know, you're just.
So, and that's actually, wait,
That's what it is, it's 40, we reduced it.
well, this was a clarification while we're on the capital thing that I have. Is each of these line items within the capital spend is it registry has payment 1 of 3, payment 2 of 3. Now.
Is this the
And this
lease?
is actually part of the question of the town manager, and I know the answer is. There are the payments related to the 2023 Tahoes, the 2024 Edges, and the Teasers. It is 203, 203, 505. Those are repayments to the town versus to the level.
5 for 5 for the way this year is done. And the 3 will go to payment 4 next year. That goes back into our operating.
Yeah.
On balance, to be borrowed against that stuff.
Now, how does that look at was, for instance, the payment 505 for the Taser, the department requested 12,000 instead of what would zero it out. But your recommendation, sir, was to not without payments. I'm just giving it one more.
So most of the money that you pay for, it's done. You're gonna pay it all, that's why it's not zero. It should be down for zero.
Right, yeah, it's zero out on the town manager, the department had request town manager zero that.
It should be, he paid all.
Okay.
That's why it's a zero.
What page, excuse me, what page you really from, because I'm seeing it here.
Gee, that's the one that we talked about.
I'm also, given that Caitlin,
Yes, yes.
Changes are made on the face.
Thank you. Because that was one of the questions I had. The need that we're looking for 23 for the new vehicles and for the Silverado, the Tahoes. Those are not yet purchased, requested to purchase, and it reflects the first payment, or you've already purchased them and this is the first thing you have to the town. Then at the same point, town manager, you have those zeroed out as well, so there's no repayment in this year. Related to those.
That's what, this is what I'm hoping.
That's what we're trying to figure out.
No, I agree, it's I don't know. That was the zero. His budget is.
yes, let's see what.
Give me, okay, so last two items, because we got a grant, feds are paying for those vehicles. We're not paying a penny.
Okay, so
So before, when the budget was put together, we weren't notified of the grant. Lisa knows we worked with Green's office, and we ended up getting to they got a cops grant. So they're purchasing those vehicles through cops grant, there's no cost to the town.
1 year or the full cost? Fantastic, congratulations on it. That's awesome.
Cops.
So.
That's moving forward, that's not the inventory part.
I understand, payment 104, payment 103, 1651. That's coming up, correct? And that's the total cost of those.
Yeah, it's like they're gonna have to get it off.
No, I understand, so that's the lease is zero. You're, I want to keep them out of three. Well, the other response.
The other two,
Those are. So you're taking my own fund balance. As what came, I don't know if I ever using the lease. You're doing it's not a lease, that's and I want to clear so I talked to the chief about this because I'm sorry that I corrected you, but people are saying, maybe some of the people say, oh, it doesn't cost us anything. Yes, it does, because we're not investing. So there is an internal rate of return that we are using these.
we're changing, we can't.
No, I'm not suggesting about it to that. If you're.
It is, because we're taking so much money out of us.
But even go to not even get higher anticipation.
They're looking at our rush, but now I'm not paying. Once, in 5 years.
I'm with you, Bob. If your internal rate of return is 3%. And your bank is 5%, you get what I'm saying.
Okay, so. Thank you, that was a confusion point that I had, related to. How are we not repaying ourselves or are we buying new? So, from what I'm seeing here, there are no new vehicles in the. FY 27 budget, correct?
Right, but we get them from that grant.
Well, two bonds.
No, but those, we already have those vehicles.
They're buying new vehicles.
We're buying, we, Mike's done all the work on the new vehicles, I'm gonna encourage technology.
Okay.
Those have to be the bond. That's why.
We have a problem, they're not capital plans because they're outside of our.
But obviously they're going, oh, that's in the future.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a good grant, and, second time around, was.
So I'm gonna go back to the original question is, those two renewable vehicles, are they replacing something?
Those vehicles, those would be, they already have those.
Right, those have been, speak now, they've already replaced vehicles that were in the fleet.
Did we buy?
Yes,
Okay, and some people say you could buy them.
Oh, no,
One.
yes.
from the previous, yes, those are there working on the road.
But for the 16, 51.
Yes.
Okay. Why are they inspired with the bond?
No, because you can pay it off in 3 years.
So they originally bought the town funds that the department was going to be less. Except we got the grant from, no, on the grant. Okay.
Alright, so you get this stuff where
I how you hand that.
when we buy a vehicle, it's either, police are technically 3 years, larger vehicles either 4 or 5.
Right.
So we put the year we're gonna buy it, we put it in a budget, payment one. Sometime during that year it comes in, we make payment one on it. Now, the next budget we make payment two, et cetera. So we're paying off vehicles, payment two, right? So next year they'll go, the vehicles will be done, we already have, the police already have it on the road. 765 or whatever they got is for 5 years.
Let's set that all aside, those don't exist in any of our paperwork, so let's not argue.
They do it since that's why they're not paying the budget.
But no, but Ken and I are really drilling into, we bought them 2 line items. Payment 1 of 4 for new police vehicles and payment 1 of 3 for Silverado and 2 for 2024 topics.
This is personal. That's great.
It's not this grant, no, it's other grants.
No, it's the grant we just got. We have.
Just said it wasn't, Bob.
I didn't say that, it also was great.
I understood it as. The grant one you spoke of, the purchase, you were purchase, You're saying we're going to this grant, it's 2 million.
What's not just line items, so they have nothing to do with the budget. We got a plan to pay 5 years. So there's no vehicles added out of the budget. All we're doing is paying for 2 vehicles and all this.
Okay, so they are 2, no, they're paying off the top 2 lines. These other ones saying they haven't purchased yet. They were budgeted to purchase and they haven't purchased them. Instead, they're going to purchase them with a grant. I think I follow you on everything.
Right, so we're going to take very on.
Right, you do not have these bottom 2 lines. That correct?
We don't have them there, but we will be.
That's fine.
That's okay.
The whole different, yeah, this is. Two different things.
If what'll happen is the grant will pay 100%. So essentially, we're gonna get them this year and they're gonna go away and not put the money over.
That makes perfect sense. Like that. So while I get there,
I'm still trying to get a question keep asking, which is when do we stop? And I'm always somewhere with this, so we talked about the phone, I don't, I think I told you.
Yeah.
If I go over to top here financially and I try to stay whole, I'm gonna keep it for another period, because I know that it can last. I think
we'll see what happens, so if we pass, but I decide to vote on it. That's where I'm trying to go here, we need, I think we need those.
So there's no specific. Exact answer for when a vehicle purchase that. Yeah, so for vehicle, we typically put over 100,000 miles on a vehicle. Before it's no longer considered safe full-time police operation. So if you get me as a vehicle years ago. In a cruiser with, I don't know, 90,000 miles on the suit, you know, I up to 85, 90,000 miles. So, you know, I'm a mechanic, so fantastic job. Without speaking, you have to break mechanics. But there's a certain point in time that vehicle, when you're retired, become detail or spare because if we keep vehicles for a while, because they still generate quite I don't want to detail making money, and then all they do is they driven. On the side of the road, they have lights on, the emergency capacity. We're not discarding is to get rid of them. We try to get full use out of those vehicles, but there's a certain point and vehicles should be 90,000 with your 130,000. When a vehicle, our kids look at it, the officers who are driving the vehicle, we communicate them, and when they start getting very loose, it's not sneaking full time. Police, you're not driving the house, it's not a job. You're driving students, raising up to last time. But you know where I'm. Yes,
It's also running the house, so it's not just.
I don't know, it's kind of like a lot of those things you run your vehicles, sort of a.
Not necessarily, and they could be running.
16 hours.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Or it can also happen as an officer, two officers like a cruiser, officer on the day shift, using 8 hours, officer on the 4 midday shift, using 58 hours, and then that also early morning shift, your day takes for that day. Might get driven day shift, second shift, midnight, and days again, second shift again. So it could be get driven 5 shifts in the car.
And we do our team mechanics, we're lucky to have, they don't just do the yearly, every year inspection, they put them up on the lift. And we, just like any other thing, the vehicle, we get a bad gear, it rusted out sooner than the other vehicle, and it, for whatever reason. And that happened to us not too long ago, where vehicles went up on the lift before their inspection, we were like, they're not gonna have inspection. And they were older, but we expected to keep them for a little bit longer, and they just weren't safe. So, it's hard, I know you're asking, but it's hard to give you an exact number. I can tell you this, he does an excellent job of making sure these vehicles are taken care of.
How much you guys unsafe, I'm just.
I got it.
I think it's really the toughest here. No, I get it.
But it's important that the officers are safe and obviously everything else and the citizens and we do, I gotta give him credit, because he's been our car guy for some years and big trade custom, he'll tell you it's he'll tell me how things.
It's interesting, you have a police guy very on confidence. The image of the police department is. They're like, well, they don't take care of that stuff. I'm not gonna give you X number of dollars to have your car. If their car looks good, and it's they believe in it, goes to the car wash and back and up. And people look at it and say, what's the nice that car is? And then also, they run that. Yeah, when people, people are driving on the street, they see the car, they say, look how nice that smells. A little CD.
Yes,
I guess we have
to accept now, and unfortunately now we have Rick Johnson for our car wash. Because, the local car wash goes down, usually where we go, and it's not necessarily, we can follow our car, but we get underneath, that's the important thing. So we gotta go to the car wash. So the officers called out, but we Johnson and doing it, believe me, when I first started, we get to post like a officer, Johnson.
Along the lines of equipment, one of the line items is clothing allowance that in the last 3 years, it's gone from about 106,000 to over about a 3% increase. Is that contractual or is okay? I figured it's part of the new contract. I'm kind of jumping around. I have other questions.
No, we did, but
let's open the board. How much
Also service, I'm just going back to the charts. So let me see if my math, because you saw me doing my calculator, you saw me, so by the way, just for, when I was in the interrogation room, it was for a meeting, it wasn't. I'm not that understanding.
Yeah,
Anticipation.
It's an interrogation, it's like yours.
So I took the 19,000 and subtracted the top three, it came up to 13. Am I doing my math, right, as you said?
Yep.
So they're included. Right, but the 13 are the what?
Postal service. And
Okay.
I could just, so in this new system, it's going to have each and every call. Whether it be a follow-up investigation or it's gonna happen, so those include that right now, it's just gonna be clear. It's gonna be, it's gonna be clear. So whenever we go to something, whenever we are responding to something. Not necessarily somebody coming to the lobby and says, comes a report, but whenever we're responding to something that has some type of call number attached to it. And so that's basically a call, so it's across the board.
So, I mean, the reason I'm asking, because that's a big number about details.
Yeah.
It's 13,700, and I'm assuming, I'm looking ahead, just say the average investment, cost when we do this. I'm assuming the resource office, they're not included, okay. I would.
Unless they're making base at a level.
Yeah. So,
Or just a misdemeanor or whatever, two levels.
whatever. I would just, hope I can encourage you, because I like to see what it says. I can.
You'd be amazed.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you, you'd be amazed, you'd be, oh my God, you believe that many message, oh my God, I don't believe that many of this, I don't believe it's, with that. It's just, it's across the board, like, today was a unique day, they were going up at night, some days are like that, obviously, we have accidents. That's a big number, quite a bit, but it's everything, neighborhood dispute, trespassing, assault, sexual assault. Vandalism, whatever it may be, they all get a number. Now, don't necessarily all get a report, most do. Some reports are 2 paragraphs, some reports are a couple pages, depending on what's involved. Going to the person that's having a bad day, it's a phone number.
So when you say they get a number. Is it categorized by what the close
Yeah, so when the call comes in, they document it, or now in the new system, they can basically document.
So you layers, you do those, what it's, how many, how many, trespassing, how many.
So
No salon, business salons, just people.
Let's have a look.
well, they're building, I think it was the 97, but it's building up because there were codes in this new system that we need this. We need this, we need this. This system's out of New England, but it's going out of New Hampshire, Massachusetts. There's certain things they do differently than us on Long Island, so different postal service, different types of things. So it's gonna be good when it's there.
Just as a preview, I hope you categorize them to something, like home, because no one will analyze them. It's just impossible. Just for everybody's, I just did the quick numbers, 2 years. Their total faults. 90%. But the rest, well, I'm just trying to this.
Yeah, I was.
That's hard to, it's hard, because I could go back 5-6 years ago and, and it's just like the summons just went up quite a bit this past year. One of the reasons I think that one is because some federal money to put a ticket and other things, we kind of revamped the way that we always did that, and so we're obviously more styles.
Do you, and on your ears on this one, do you have a breakdown of calls for service as it relates to Brian? And like how often we have to
Here's the thing with Brian. So we go up there, for calls, whether it's accidents, we get a handle the accidents, like we do the official reporter, arson, vandalism, assault, all different stuff. Not necessarily are we going to Brian, there's more often than not. In the periods lately, correct me if I'm wrong, they're coming into the station to look at what things that have happened. So I guess we could kind of figure out this is a Brian student, if they give their 150 address of wherever they're staying up there. Most of the big address on their ID and put it in there. And I don't know what that trend is that they're more coming walk-ins. But you know, little things that are happening in the 2,000, 3,000 community with that age, my computer was stolen, my phone was stolen, my this was stolen, this happened, this person's stolen, that, so. We get a lot more walk-ins, we're not going up there quite a bit, we're not going that. We're probably going up as much, but it seems like we're getting more walk-ins. And I don't know why that's true, I have why. I do know security, they have the security that does investigations. So their own security, they're not, can't tell, they can't do anything, they do their investigations, they can do discipline if school will provide. A lot of times I think students that maybe this have been not misled, that's the wrong way to do it, but think they've actually get an official police report, and then they're looking for the insurance on their item that's stolen, oh, you gotta go to the police. So now we gotta, I mean, that, wait, we can get it, I actually report, yeah, this Peter, but we can get it. We gotta do our own little investigation too, especially if it's insurance. So, yeah, I bet you we could get around about number, but it wouldn't be 100% accurate, would it?
But this times,
Yeah. Right.
and that's a big benefit that Ryan gets.
Yeah, I mean, if computer stolen or phone stolen, you guys, we should know these things can be tracked. We have detectives that can do that, you're right, it's honest.
Other general budget questions related to it. I mean, I we don't have.
Well, I do, but I just had for today, I mean, I'm going to the slides and.
Well, so the slides in general, we hit a lot of slides and I do have other questions, so what do I say?
Oh, I'm just confused now, I'm trying to listen.
Yeah,
They talk about it.
No, that's okay, it's not fast. You talked about a third officer,
Yeah.
and then you talked about how you control or minimize over time. Did you re-go over that? Because I love this time, I agree with Chris, I wish we had one of these. The other departments, because I think to me it's very vision, very vision.
So this is our contractual obligation, which is, this is what the minimum meaning for, where the minimum personnel we have to have on board. So when we do put another officer in a squad, any squad. So let's say squad one first shift, kind of thing, I put another officer together. That means if we're down an officer, I don't have to fill it, because I have 5 officers. So whenever I move people around, we can't do it too often, but we can, we'll move people around and put them where it's a long-term vacancy or a long-term illness, or whatever you think, to try to move officers to alleviate the overtime. The other thing we do with overtime is when it's still us that when we do we have mandatory trainings, the mandatory trainings that we do. We try to do them, and it's always, and our training officers are very good about it. You know, most people who are working, going to get. So I'm gonna pay overtime, I'm coming to this training, don't have to be some, come in, do the training, spread it out over a couple of days, so maybe we get more people work, and not. We can pay attention to that stuff, there's no such thing as a free training. Free training costs us personnel that's going out too, so we kind of try to minimize that if we can. But this schedule, if I have the officers, we have the officers to fill. Because there's nothing saying I can't put as many officers in each squad as I want. They're only telling me this is what I have to put in.
Steel Park, where you kind of, this is what I'm grounded, where you get the third officer.
So that's 22 patrol officers.
You need 5 on shift, it has to.
So if you say that 22 patrol officers, if we get 4 permanent parking. So if I put extras in spots and somebody's out, I don't fulfill for it.
Example, that's what I'm getting.
No, so just say squad 1 and squad 2 will work. And I have 3 officers. I have the third patrol squad 1, and somebody's out sick or they take a vacation day in that squad, I don't have to fill because they have my skill.
So it's for shift.
So when we're fully staffed,
So we try to put it on consistency. Now, you can never anticipate sick. We try to patient. You're coming up, maybe first we start looking at this. Start looking at, all right, we put on staffing in this exhibit. And we will try to eliminate overtime because. 1, we want to try to eliminate overtime, but 2, we don't want officers working patrol around us. We don't want 16 hours a year, so. You know, we don't want that.
Yeah, and we had this conversation with the fire, overtime is a useful tool when, so to be able to use when you need to use it. It gives you great flexibility, but also you wanna ensure the safety of the officer, yeah. Members of the department, so.
Not for nothing, this generation, great, I know their time is their time. They don't wanna work as much as they used to in the past, and nothing wrong with that, hey, you gotta get time off and still get in. So if we can, because we have one events, when we're not fully staffed, we get it all back. If we have to do it, which is overtime.
Now, so for the budget for the year, we're talking overtime, you're looking at a request of 156,000 to fund an officer overtime. Looking back, if you look at the actual expenditure in FY 25 is just shy of 200, FY 24 was 190. Through the end of December for this year, you're at 71. So you're roughly doubling on average, maybe a little more.
331.6.
Oh, you have a more updated.
Well, the overtime, I mean, I'm looking at the 156.
Well, that's the request.
Right, I'm not asking, 146 for last year.
Right.
Okay, so that's only the same number, wasn't 6.8%.
Would what would the likelihood be of incremental staff having a substantial reduction in your overtime, or would it not work out as much as you think because of the time of day you may need to experience the overtime work or daily with your staff?
I really couldn't answer that question because I don't know, like, give you an answer, and this is what would happen, and it doesn't do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fair. It's a question I have to ask.
No, and it's you come do it, you know, fortunately, I have a lot of positions that I do have to fill. In the person's help, you know, and that's good.
Can we have more on me today?
No. The coordinating officer is roughly 100,000. I don't think you can go.
No, I know it.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be great. Well, very cool. It's awesome.
One of the questions I did have, thinking when we were talking about the science beyond traditional policing. And we were talking about the mental health crisis prevention, social service, resources. Last week we spoke to the fire department, or 2 weeks ago we spoke to the fire department. They actually are hiring a NIH. Is that the role NIH? What's the overlap for the between what you're doing and what this person theoretically would do? Or are they separate, completely separate? Like, what's the specification?
Look, obviously, any social service that I could utilize in assist us in this, but I can tell you, I know, including myself, just 2 of us have dealt with people on the phone for hours and days. That doesn't reach the level of maybe this other service. But we're trying to satisfy them in whatever we have, or however, we do have a mental health advocate, she's great, she's not with us all the time, she's, you know, she's well, other departments in the state and stuff like that, but she's great for follow-up. Here's the other half, when we send her out, or she's visiting somebody at the station, we don't want her alone, especially if the recommendation on us. So we will always be responsible for being part of it, you know, but there are times where that advocate points them in a direction and we're trying to die, I guess you could say, but we need someone, how do I say this? It's when it's 11 o'clock at night and the officers out with somebody in the middle of nowhere, you have no place to give them, we bring them and we have nobody to come here. What we're doing,
That's when.
okay, it's every day.
It's not, we don't get these skirts.
And maybe it's not a citizen and somebody from Rock and you know, that's what we're trying to get, so if you just, if you don't want, I'm not saying I don't know, it's our job. You're supposed to, it doesn't reach a level of power in the fire department to do this person evaluation. So you put them out and they'll do it if it's that, sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes this person just is all around and everywhere, and we're doing everything we can to find them places to stay. Or more importantly, if we can, somebody's gonna come get it.
But you can find some community struggles and it's we can it's just more so where's there a connection between it.
So Ian, is a legal change. They may do their box and so on. I'm required by laws to do that. So they so person to style you better.
That you know, if you're fine or not.
Fine, but that's, you know, okay,
That's a public. They paid to or they did reporters.
The fire.
Yes, I take that.
And if it's something that says suicide, it's a figure out the.
You know, maybe back to make the call. Chief, are you familiar with that position?
No, I know that's the best one.
I would strongly encourage, have a conversation with Chief there.
Okay.
Because it lays out the first couple of bullets, welfare checks.
So is it good?
Follow lessons.
I'll speak with them, but is this gonna be a full-time staff?
Yes. Yes, yes, it's coming up, I believe it's the budget, it's full time in the summer. It's
Full-time grant.
full time, it's not, it's not at 2 AM.
It's okay, we'll take it.
But right, I'm just telling you, I think this person exists in the town staff, you know. And they were describing it as, you know, assisting global.
Yes, and then the fire department's great, they help, so. We give each other a hard time, we work well together. So anything that they have, we have, yeah,
And I just want to make you aware of it very much.
oh, absolutely. It wasn't, if it was said to me, I lost it.
But there's nobody, but there's nobody on these two. See,
Well, there it is.
okay, because I have another.
I think you want the situation. So, if it's somebody in the housing and that kind of stuff, they can call Ben, who services director, work on that one time with overtime. But.
I meant more for the mental health.
If the mental health, we can bring them to, place of these provinces. So technically, if it's truly mental health, you know, it's identified as that, we can transport them right to East Providence. The clinic that's been able to hold for $48.
I think what he was getting to.
That's not an easy process.
No, trust me, I'm involved in that I had to be, we were hot. Now we staff, that meaning, if somebody gets called home. To get that, and I was just wondering, if that went to Peter's question, that gamble to both the fire and, you know, so if you're at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
You have it in places.
No.
There are services, the problem becomes is that moment. Or that moment of time isn't just 5, 15, 20 minutes, it's hours and hours and hours, and then finally it moves on. And many times at 11 o'clock at night on a normal night, hopefully there's not much more going on and we have the ability to do that. But there are times, I mean, that person walking down the road, that wasn't in the middle of the night, or just, you know, it was just like afternoon or late afternoon, if I remember correctly, it was, oh, yeah, and then that, we get tying up services there and trying to get this person on the bench and that asset to it, the season. The person just tied up, and it's just like, and again, we're not cleaning, we know what we're supposed to be doing, we understand it, but it's just one of those things that. And it's not a big report in the end, it's not like this big investigation, it's basically being with this person, whatever time and need they needed, get to the next step.
And then with your point of view, I can tell you Christmas, some kind of annual conversation. After 2 hours, we get it's a fine line, you know, it's not. It's not, look what you're going to do.
If it's our residents, usually it's the family member we get to it, and that's somebody here. But if somebody just showed up and for some reason it happened, and it sure happens in your community. Why are you here? I don't know. Okay. We don't get that. How did you get here? I don't know. They're at the crossings and they're just there. You know?
We've hit most of the slides, I have a couple additional related questions, but again, other questions, what kind of follow the slide presentation itself, clear that out.
I have, on the same slide. You say you rotate these beats within the town, I don't know what the lines are.
So yeah, the line 2, 1, 2, and 3, so they'll stay a month and a beat. So if they're in a month there, let's just say, well, this month they're doing 1, next month they're in two, bring it back to one. So 30 days of their take to be.
You may have answered this as we're talking about things for the beyond traditional policing. You lock these in, will be locked in almost uncontrolled. Should currently use.
Yeah, no, so we started logging them in,
Right.
so it's one of the things you'll help you, you have different names, different things.
I mean, just as a curiosity. Go down the street. Sorry, not with, you go there, Just make a little security.
Yeah, no, we went out there, haven't seen it, it's Bergman, right, and you could actually have to go out there, you know, it's.
There's not a kind of buildings, you know, and that was security or something. No.
Chief, what's what process on the authorization of the there's
What's the what process?
the what process is on?
It's just to get an officer, so if you're in one particular, you know, you're constantly doing the same thing, it's just kind of move them around to get a little bit of a call volume difference. In a different type of call, I guess you could say, no, and it does, like if you're in the blue area, and you like to work, it's a good area to work. You know, and that is nothing wrong, it's a different type of work, you're gonna have a shop, it's gonna be a shop. It's just gonna be a shop, it's just gonna happen, you're gonna, you know, work on that and whatever it may be. And you know, it is what it is.
Keeps it off the shelf also, so you don't get stacked, sitting in one spot and something there. Yeah.
I don't think you're big enough, I don't think we're too big of a community that they won't know our offices anyway, so we don't have to win that, you know, but to rotate them around. Yeah,
And to get out on this.
And of course, every office has their own thing that they like to do. You know, certain offices do, like some offices like to drive around the neighborhood thing, everything. You know, some offices want to sit on 44.7 and do what they need to do, some offices, you know, it's just, everybody's a difference. And yeah, it's continuity, you're just gonna move to the next one. That's it. They don't complain about it, so.
Not to, it's repetitive.
So I guess the question I do have, and this is gonna probably be the chief and the town manager, but there are two goals on the payroll that would encourage communication, potential, like reviewing the work consolidation. Or share on the police department, no. On the overall department, if you want, and again, I don't know if you're doing it or not, so this is a loaded question, that if they're doing it, it doesn't count, so. The payroll administrator and the facilities maintenance, those are roles that we have across the town, across the different departments. Is there an opportunity for an efficiency in having shared services, like what the town is doing with the school department now, with their HR coordinator? Do we have an ability with payroll or with facilities? I know I here for start off, and I'm only a part-time facilities person. Where can we consolidate some of these positions or associations?
I can answer the overall picture, so Gene and I have been working on a plan to have a facility maintenance department for all town, including the schools. So we're in the premature stage, I guess. But so I'm gonna give you a perfect example. We had an issue at one of the buildings a few weeks ago, or GFI here, was they're kind of crazy, people selling it, then they found it, reset it, it was almost $400. And we have a good contract. So when the DPW took down the greenhouse at the high school, the vendor wanted $40,000 to take it down and get it done in a day. So we're looking at all those expenses related to and most service expenses, hourly rates, I haven't seen anything less than $130. They're going through the roof. So it makes more sense for us to be looking at doing more of this in-house, because you got the prevailing wage issue. It's just when you start looking at the numbers. So there's some issues with obviously janitorial universities. Everybody else, but we are from a larger picture, we are looking at that, you got to see some statements in. And knowing our buildings better, maintaining better. Once it's too far along.
Someone face that knows the book.
And then you know that you walk in, oh yeah, that's what, so it's what.
I mean, I'm not always, you know, I'm not always hiring new positions, but if that's the AC this money gets us a better situation. In terms of keeping the building safe, I'm all for it. Payroll administrator, I had a conversation with somebody behind me. well, it's, the payroll, not the HA person. But, I mean, I'd like to see that starting to consolidate.
Well, I think what happens is your payroll, so Faith requires does payroll, she has a lot of other meetings. And payroll gets, and your payroll is in section over to here, and they, all the official calculations, and meeting to get everybody today.
You must have been reading my mind, because I was literally pulling up the fire department, personnel to see who they have listed for payroll, so.
You can explain the.
So, yeah, So our payroll administrator is very highly over. Is also our fiscal coordinator and our records clerk. We've already consolidated that position of records clerk into fiscal coordinator, payroll administrator. And there are times in APRA requests, you can only imagine how many APRA requests that we receive at the police department. So she does that. She does the payroll, she does the fiscal stuff, and we also have the detail payroll. We work obviously 24/7, and it's a hard system to follow. Many times she comes to me and I say, "Is that right?" And she said, "Yes," and I have to believe her. It's not power. So we already consolidated the position, and we used to have a records clerk. Looking back at it now, with 5 more cameras and everything else, was the right thing to do, maybe at the time. But now it's different, there's more after requests and more whatever it is, and I mean. It's hard to tell you a number of after requests we may get. I know, cause I get them too, sometimes you're coming Monday morning and there's 17 requests waiting for you. You know, but you might not get a couple for the rest of the week, may not, but you may. And people still wanna walk in and live in one space, they just want to, you know, they wanna come in and I want right now. And she's the main person, my secretary, the secretary is the backup. And then everybody else is kind of on Celine's house, and that's going through the training, I have request. So the consolidation there, the facility maintenance, is a contractual position. Facility maintenance groundskeeper, also a contractual position, and Mike and I, we do like our facility. So that's very important, we like that community room spotless, you know, so it is what it is, and he does a very good job. And that's important to us, that one looks good and everything else that goes along with it, plus we're in the building. The building, I was a project coordinator for that building, it's 8 years old now. Things are failing, I say good, we need things painted, we need things updated, we need, you know, it's a lot of work for one person, he does a good job.
Snow removal.
Snow removal.
We have to be 24/7, so, but there's we had just snowstorm at 11 o'clock here to 2 o'clock in the morning. A lot needs to be clear, so that we can respond to calls for service. Can't wait for DPW.
They help.
They do
a
help.
great job.
We can't wait, rely on them to keep the lot clear. We have someone constantly plowing the lot, so no one gets stuck in the back lawn. We can call 911, we can get there. So.
And I love what you said, and you pointed this to me as well. I remember a few years ago, I had an issue with trying to get some data after the rain. This. You know, I don't, I say it's for it. I wish there was one, like a science, a criminal filter or whatever, and I don't know if it's a fire. So, I wish they would find this. I wish they would be developing for things that businesses going to consolidate policies of business. And I'm not asking for positions.
No, but I think our answer question, at least the public, it's different. I know this one's completely different, and we could never allow somebody that's not trained or even access, if you have the 10 days, you know what, and some of these requests come in. She had a request for decent people, right, 1995. 94, she had to go to the downstairs of our building and you know, into the old files and manually find this.
I think maybe a response. I'm not suggesting that. John Jones across the hall does something, suggesting that maybe there's a conference, maybe the clerk's office, so it's a decent department. Don't go and give it to you or her.
Well, yes,
She does,
Yeah, sure, it's so primarily you.
but directly to your Hanukkah is better. It gets lost. It doesn't get fulfilled, and we're very smart on that. You know, like we had one come in at 4 o'clock on Friday, it was 4:01, it was at 4 o'clock. So I have to count this day, I counted the day, they didn't want to come out with it, you know, and it was gonna take a little bit of time for this to get done. So.
You
Yeah, I understand, it's completely what you're saying, you're just, that's a little bit protective of that, because I wouldn't want to put us up to any type of.
For sure, once it is, the.
It's a whole different thing.
You've done it. You've run me out of questions.
Chair, I have some questions, by then.
Yes.
Chief, just specific questions.
Yeah.
Just based on the budget alone, are you adding employees?
No.
Number two,
No.
is what I can
No
tell.
additional.
What's that?
No additional.
Correct, they've already been budgeted. So under this budget, you're not adding new.
Right.
Thank you. Second question, and there is no material capital expenditures, is that correct, besides the computer system for 30,000? That's not even material, right?
No.
Okay, and my last question is, most of the increases I see in this budget seem to be contraction, is that correct? Yes. Have no further questions, thank you very much. The highlights of the budget.
Yeah, you're right. I've been in this office 60 years and the station was town hall. Upstairs. We saw us, we showed you the jail, you know, who's considered their office, I dare you.
That trivia was easier than the one I went through.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, so. I did this with fire department, I'm going to extend this out to you as well. Again, this is your talent to impress what your needs are on us. We've done a great job and I really appreciate everything that these departments have been doing for the community. Gentlemen, both of you have really helped inform us and teach us a lot about what you're doing. I'm coming away with a lot more information than I had coming in, so I really appreciate it. All of these numbers aside, all of the other questions, what's not in this presentation, what's not in this budget that we need to know, what's important for us to know as we move forward?
Nothing, I think the record should have nothing.
Yeah, it's. To anticipate any issues or problems that I didn't know, but it was not this budget, I think the budget, we went over it, we feel comfortable that we did a correct, fiscal budget. We both grew up here, so we never left, and unfortunately, it is what it is, so we both grew up here, we both live here, we're probably both not gonna leave here. So we care about the town, appreciate you guys taking your time, your volunteers in doing this and we're doing out there, but I think what we presented here, as long as we can maintain what we need to do with our 48 officers and our sworn civilian staff, I think we're in a good place going forward. I don't know what the future's gonna bring, in some ways it's a little scary, in some ways it's okay. So it's just, you just never know how big the town's gonna get, how much busier things gonna become. But we're not gonna get blamed when they do our job, just like I'm not complaining about anything we do, I just want people to know this is other things that we do besides what people think is work maybe. Maybe that's why some people get into the job now, they truly enjoy those things of it.
And finally, I know with your predecessor stations against that. And I think it's not just us, it's us.
So it's across the state, it's across, there was not, so we had, I had in 2023, and it was one of the classes that we had 40 hours of this, how do we recruit, how do we retain? We are very lucky with retention. We had an officer do a lateral transfer just recently, it does not happen with us. I think it's because it's a good community. I think we run the department in a good way and haven't run in a good way. It's just, we require a bachelor's degree. We're the only department in the state. I'm not ready to give that up.
Please don't. The budget professionalism that we have in Smithfield here is second to none.
We have 89.2% of our officers have masters. So, so it's no other department in the state that can say that, but of course, we're going to go to bachelor requirements or, what's the next step? Yeah, so, and there's certain things like that, so the recruiting's hard. And when we get somebody, that's good. If we're not hiring, somebody else can, they grab them anyway. And I don't like to tell people when they're in our process that, hey, we're gonna give you a position, you better remove yourself from any of the process that you're in. Other departments do that. And I don't like doing that, you know, because I want the person to select that, and select their, not be kind of bad work for me. You know, so, yeah.
I think you did a great job.
I don't know how we would all this situation. I don't of what you guys did for us, but I wasn't in this with it. But I know I heard from a lot of employees, they love the brand. So that safety across the street was also. So I don't want that to go on.
I just, inspires me, even when I was happening, we get everybody together to make sure we're all set. Here, spend the one, so, you know, they should like flush, they, right out.
All right. With that, we're all set with line item D, reviewing the department budget. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I'm gonna move on to item E, public comment. We have any members of the public that want to, Stephen?
I remember probably late, though, I know over there is.
I know where.
Okay. Oh, I'm glad you could talk about the lease word and all that. I'm not very good on the thing. But what? The lease. You keep using that term. What lease? Oh, the same things are like, right, we're in terms of financing. Fund balance. I do have an updated. Okay, so.
Sorry, just for clarification, this is ending his position as a member of the public, not as the. Right, well, and that's why I'm saying we're in public comment versus in. Budget discussion.
And I need to speak up. I need to see from this committee, you. a Memo coming out saying what is going to be on the agenda, because there's no way we just get these agendas. And there's nothing there, so. We have done this in the past. I appreciate what you're saying, Bob, but it's gotta stop. Because we're not getting everything on the agenda, we're not getting the opportunity to add something. I'm gonna publish this tomorrow on my blog. That's the way I'm gonna do it from now.
So remember, we have a meeting coming up next Tuesday. If there's anything you would like on the agenda, please notify me prior to Friday so that I can work with comment and have it on the agenda.
Agreed, but I can ask, and I did this as chair, let's send it out for these meetings. Because those are respectful, we all have, it's hard to remember that, but that's what I believe, and that's why I had, so just so you know, this is how I had to do it, other people had to do it first. Right, we can argue about whether it's going on, I don't really care, but we have that. So we can get it in 48 hours and get something. We got to, we do it right.
We have a Tuesday and a Thursday meeting next week. I have to double check that, but I know we have a Tuesday meeting. Thursday. That's why we'll see. We have a Tuesday and a Thursday meeting. I said, I have to double check. I have to be sure. It has a public hearing. No, this is the public hearing.
Tuesday's public works department makes that at the police station.
Yes.
So if
Thursday.
There we go.
So we
My
can-
house-
Yeah, no, it's here.
21st.
Yes, that was.
So that currently.
Yes, so-
The agenda.
Yes, so the Thursday one is what we have for our principal, so that's what we're gonna be finalizing every department and going out who's it.
Well,
And if you have a specific agenda, I'm adding you to the Tuesday or the Thursday.
because we haven't done that in terms of trying, I still feel like the last time we did this, we new policy. That's when we went over the entire budget, so right. So anyways, coming with 5th and 7th, which are next week, 5:30, after some reason, we scheduled. There's 2 5:30 meetings next week. And which one is a public hearing? Public hearing is
The public hearing is this week.
There's no action. It's changed a lot, no.
So just, so I was going chairman, I know, we got a change of the, Charter Review Commission, doing the fee, so. The agenda wasn't done properly, was like, et cetera, et cetera. So I think at the previous meeting, was somebody you want, the next one that you have now, I put in. You mentioned it, and then whatever department you put 12 on, this is what they did. Try to review, just put down both departments, and actually get a fleet, and that's great. And nobody can say, well, I didn't have enough to speak, I didn't put it on the agenda, so hopefully. Whatever.
As we're clear next Thursday, it's gonna be the line item version as you like, and I appreciate that guidance.
Just don't want us.
Exactly. All right, any other public comments, Stephen?
Maybe that, okay, I guess it can be around, people around the table.
Well, it can be, but it can't necessarily be about the budgets, so it has a different. I mean, I'll talk about later,
I think it's been, we can't change places in the middle of a meeting, so.
that's fair,
I think the safe side is, you remember.
I don't disagree with Bob, all I'm saying is, we've done this in the past, so what I'm saying, so let's stop. I don't think sure it is.
So, Ken, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take an action item to follow up with the solicitors to find out about our legal protection on that, so we should have operating within. Sample sitting there. I mean, so 8 for this week, let's put a pin in it, I'm gonna follow up with our solicitor to make sure that, whatever actions they're doing are the appropriate actions. And then we'll, move forward with, guidance. That being said, anyone else would like to comments, so, make a motion to adjourn, please. All right, I don't have, someone a second. All right. You're out. Thank you all so much. See you here. Still, yeah, red box, green box, and now.
Oh, I'm good.
This is all you.